based on the initial premise. That's the logic. And I just want to say this, before I get too far in this entire program, everything that Neely Fuller says should be disbelieved. It should not be believed or paid attention to at all, except check it out yourself and see if it corresponds with evidence and logic, because that's what I try to follow. I was trying to find somebody to teach me everything and whatnot. I couldn't find anybody to do that. I could find everybody who could teach me something, but nobody who could teach me everything, because nobody has ever solved the race problem. It's never been done. So it's one of those things so far that hasn't been done. But I believe it can be done, just like a lot of things that have happened in my existence on this planet that people said for years couldn't be done. Oh, ain't no way you can get to the moon. There ain't no way you can write songs about it and poems about it and moon about it, but ain't no way you can get there. I mean, you can't even get halfway there. Well, somebody, like John Kennedy said, you know what? People have been talking about this for millions of years. I'm going to do it in no time. And he did it. He did it. Just an afternoon idea. Yeah, I'm going to the moon. It might take maybe 5, 10 years. I mean, people have been looking at it for millions of years, worshiping it. Some tribes think that it's some kind of god. We're going to go there and set a flag on it and, hang around, eat sandwiches and whatnot, leave the candy wrappers all over the place. And later on, even take some black people up there maybe to clean it up, because they're pretty good at cleaning up sometimes if they got somebody with a whip over them. So what's the point that I'm making? I'm saying, yes, we need to wrap this thing up and do it in record time. And that's what I think that everybody should be working on. Why? Why try to get rid of the race problem? Because it's an annoyance? No. Because if you're black, all of your plans are going to be all messed up because of a thing called the race problem, if your plans are anything that makes sense. Now, if it's something that doesn't make sense, the white supremacists will finance that. Anything that a black person wants to do that is pure garbage, the white supremacists will finance it. You don't believe it, just go to them with a mind full and with a plan full of garbage. That's not going to help anybody. It's going to really hurt black people in the long run and all like that. And the white supremacists will say, come on in. Name what you want. I'll help you. I'll give you whatever capital you need on anything that's going to be damaging to your people or the people that you call your people, even though all of you belong to me, including you, boy. But sit down, and I'll make out the check.
All right, 800-450-7876. Talib is joining us from New York. Talib is on line 2. Talib, you're on with Neely Fuller Jr.
Yes, thank you for taking my call. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir.
Thank you, sir. When someone steals something from someone, the person who is taken from usually wants to get that thing back. When we were brought over here, stole. They wanted us for a particular reason, that was to work, to do the labor. It wasn't for any other reason that I can tell. Shouldn't we, as a people, want that which was stolen from us, that which is our labor?
Not just our labor. We are stolen property. I mean, everything that black people have, we don't own anything, even though the white supremacists will give all of us a piece of paper talking about what we own. But as long as they own us, they own whatever we own. A black person doesn't have a marriage, but the white supremacists will tell you, you're now man and wife, or some kind of something in wife or husband and whatnot. Whatever I say it is, that's what you are. Okay? But whatever they give you, including the right to marry. They can take it away in 2 seconds, and which they have done. There's no such thing as a black marriage. Prisoners of war cannot be married. But we have the illusion of having that. Why? Because the white supremacists want us to have illusions. We thrive on nothing but falsehood and illusions. All the things that we think are so grand and the knowledge that we have is really all comes from them. Our understanding of the universe all comes from them. And we go around bragging about what we know, which is what the code says we should never do. One of the ugliest things, if not the ugliest thing, that you'll ever see a black person do is brag. We are so out of it, we don't even know we're out of it. Just like people who are insane don't know that they're insane. And we are insane. We couldn't be anything else other than that. Neely Fuller's insane. Even in his insanity, talking about being insane. He's insane. Why? Because we are in a totally insane situation. There's no cracks in this armor that we have found yet. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in the shape that we're in. That's the proof. Black people walking around talking about how smart they are and how they built the pyramids and all like that. Well, there's one question here. What happened? Smart people don't fall down to the level where we have been like forever. We were dumb even back then. So you won't find a criteria in history. See, because smart people don't fail. Period. All that means is you wasn't smart enough. You were smart enough at that time, if you were ever smart at all. But being smart yesterday won't carry you through the day if today's conditions have changed and you didn't keep up. That's a fact. Now, that hurts people's feelings, but black people's feelings need to be hurt. Then we'll get something done. Feelings are made for a purpose. Being hurt. When you feel pain, that's a signal. Something is out of order. But we've been trying to grin through our pain rather than sit down and say, hey, I got to get this nail out of my foot. Period. Because the longer it stays there, the worse it's going to get. That's a very simple formula. That's the logic of the universe, not Neely Fuller's logic. You got a nail in your foot. And you're hobbling around. We all are hobbling around, including Neely Fuller. And as long as he's trying to pretend that that nail ain't there and that his foot doesn't hurt, he's just as crazy as he can be. And he hasn't started down the road to being sane.
All right, hold that thought right there and stay with us, Talib, if you have a follow-up. Our guest is Neely Fuller Jr. Go and tell your friends he's on the radio right now. We're on FM 95.9 and AM 1450. WOL, where information is power. And thanks for staying with us, folks. Our guest is Neely Fuller Jr. We're discussing racism and white supremacy. And, you know, he's saying if you don't understand it and everything it entails, everything else you think you understand will only serve to confuse you. He's got a book that's, the short title of the book is called The Code. But before he leaves, I'm going to let him tell you the complete title and how you can pick up a copy. Then you'll understand. Then again, I got to tell you, you got to listen very, very keenly because he uses logic to explain everything that he says. And he, like he says, you know, if you don't even check it out. And many of our guests say that. If, you know, you don't take where they say is gospel, go look it up for yourself. But again, the short title of the book is called The Code. So Neely Fuller Jr., I'm going to let you finish your response to Talib's question. Now, basically, he's asking about reparations, I guess. Let me just broaden it a little bit here. Reparations. If we get reparations, is everything all right then? As far as is it repaired? Are we repaired, or are we made whole? Depend on what frame of reference we use when we say reparations. Reparations means to repair damage that's been done. Now, we have been damaged all the way. Not just in some things, not just in lack of some money. Money won't do it for us.
And if the white supremacists, that's the first thing black people think about because we've had so little of it. So when we think of reparations, we think of everybody lining up on a golden day, and everybody's going to get a check with their name on it. And then, hallelujah, party time, barbecue time, limousine time. Okay. Well, I mean, the booty shaking all over the place. All right. At last, free at last, reparations. No. First of all, we should get that out of our minds about cash. Cash will destroy us in about 20 days after we get it. It'll be the biggest mess you ever saw, ever. And the white supremacists will be laughing like I don't know what at our carrying on with that cash money. Millions of dollars for every black person. I can see it now. And if you stop and think about it and just look out the window at us now and look at how we go about doing things, look at what's important to us, and then imagine us each with $10 million apiece instantly on a payday or $20 million or whatever it is. And then imagine us, if we get paid at 5 o'clock that morning, what we'll be acting like by 5 o'clock that evening. With the state of mind that we have, being the type of people that we have turned out to be in the system of white supremacy here in 2019. Just stand back and think about it. That's all I'm asking to do. Just stand back. Reparations, cash for every black person who has suffered directly, indirectly in the system of racism, legacy of slavery or whatever, segregation, lack of civil rights, lack of jobs, being paid off, $30 million for each black person. I'm just throwing that out as a figure. Got paid this morning on this day, on a Friday. By Sunday, I have told people down through the years, I wouldn't want to be anywhere around us. And I mean that. Seriously. If that's the deal that we would get, cash money to spend any way that we choose to spend, no conditions. So, what do you say about reparations, Fuller? You know, so codification is not about talking about how things are or how things could be in a terrible way. What would reparations be? We're talking about a generational thing. Mainly the big poor. It would be education. Start with. Because people who don't have any sense ain't got no business with no money. Number one. All right? Education. A lot of it. Tons of it. That would be the first thing in reparations. Get your mind straight. Because we're thinking long range here. Not any one-shot deal. That ain't going nowhere. The white supremacists have every dime of that money back and then tell every black person, you've been paid off. Now get out, find another planet to go to because this one is mine. I paid you all off. So if you didn't know what to do with your money, that's on you because we got it all back by 5 o'clock the next evening with some of you. Every cent of it we got back. Because you immediately went out talking about you want a white chauffeur in your 15 limousines that you're going to buy. We know that. We pretend that we don't know that, but we know how we are. Slaughtering each other. I'll kill a blankety blank. That's how we'll talk. And pay for him. I can see it now. So what do? No. We need an education program that's solid, the best in the world, and it needs to be generational, guaranteed education, first-class education in everything that matters, not the scrap education that we're getting now. Education is 100% constructive, nothing non-constructive anywhere in it, everything in it constructive. All right, and health care. That goes along with education. Okay? You want guaranteed. Guaranteed. And transportation and housing. I call it the Big Four: education, health care, housing, transportation. Generational, spread out. And don't just give us a house without a break on certain things. See, because we don't have discipline. We haven't been taught discipline. We've never had to be disciplined, except somebody hitting us over the head. That's what we associate with discipline. But we need self-discipline, which we don't have, which means if you give a black person a house, okay, that's helping to repair, because we've been denied housing for so long. But you have to put a break on that. You have to tell every black person, you can never sell this house. You can trade it, but you can never sell it. You can trade it for another house in another place. You can do that, maybe 3 or 4 times. But and then there's a limit, because we got to be reasonable about it if we're talking about real reparations. So that would be one of the things. I'm just throwing out some suggestions about how this reparations should work, because everything in codification is about things that work and things that will work long range, because black people have only been taught, like back in the days when I was coming up, Friday night, get paid, spend all your money on Saturday, go to church on Sunday, and try to sober up before you get there. And then, like the old blues songs used to say, back to the same old thing on Monday. That's been black people's history in the system of white supremacy. And we have never gotten away from that. Truth be told, we are not great thinkers. We are not long-range thinkers. We are not generational thinkers. We just think about Friday evening, the eagle flew, I got paid, I'm going to party all weekend, I'm going to get tore up, drugs, whiskey, get in 2 or 3 fights, and if I didn't get killed on the weekend, back to the grind on Monday, and look forward to the same thing next weekend. All over the world, this is what a black person is known for. Now, we have modified that just a little bit, but not much. Because even when we get millions of dollars now, many of us don't have any idea of anything constructive to do with it. We just buy more of what? Destruction.
All right. Talib, you have a follow-up? You still with us?
Yes, I'm still with brother, with the good brother, so much so that I'm going to let somebody else ask the question, because he has me thinking so hard now. His logic is blowing my brain cells, you understand? And I got to come back at him another day and continue this. Thank you.
All right. All right, and we understand. That's what we want you to do. We want you to think. Like he said, don't believe anything he says. Just think about it and research it yourself, and then you'll come up with a conclusion. I got a tweet question for you, Neely. The person says, ask him, does he think that we were damaged mentally from racism? And if so, perhaps we can get some help for our mental illness.
Yes, we need a code. That's the missing link. That's why I'm trying to write one. A lot of people have asked me, well, Fuller, where's the whole code? I say there's no such thing as a whole code in anything until what? All problems are solved. So black people, since we have been denied everything that makes sense for so long, we should, to compensate for that, try to do everything that makes sense. That's the yin and yang of it. If you've been taught from birth that you are supposed to be, that you, first of all, are genetically inferior, so therefore you're also stupid, and you're supposed to remain stupid. I think as Dr. Kathy Hughes has said, used to use the term SOS, stuck on stupid. Well, the white supremacist says, yes, if you're black, you're supposed to be stupid. You're supposed to be stupid all the time. You don't do anything that ever makes sense because you're black. And you're a black person, every move that you make all day long and everything that you look forward to doing is going to be super stupid because you're black. Now, if we're going to have a repair job, we should take just the reverse. Everything that we do is going to be constructive. We are going to go from being the world's biggest problem makers to the world's biggest problem solvers.
All right, hold that thought right there. We've got to take a short break. I'll let you finish on the other side. Folks, you too can join us, 800-450-7876 to speak to Neely Fuller Jr. right here on FM 95.9 and AM 1450. WOL, where information is power. And thanks for rolling with us, folks. Our guest is Neely Fuller Jr. We're discussing racism, white supremacy. 800-450-7876. And Dr. Fuller, tell us about the fact that you say that we're all in a prison. Black people are in a prison because sometimes we wonder why it seems like we always attacking each other. Not all of us, but some of us seem to, we talk about Tamir Rice, the people who, and Trayvon Martin, Eric Garner, Oscar Grant, and go on, and names some of these people who were brutalized by the enemy. They're still around, and our people, even the gangbangers, they don't go after anybody else. They shoot at each other. Those people who were talking smack, they don't go after the people who took those people out. They go after each other. What's the cause of that?
Because we are prisoners. See, if we study, many black people have been in what we call prison. In the textbook that I've written, I call it greater confinement, because we are born in prison. The system of white supremacy is the only government we've ever known. So that's a prison system itself. So we're treated like prisoners. We're assigned cell blocks. I mean, even the architecture where they build, where black people are, kind of follows the prison, what we call the greater confinement pattern. Wire, concrete, everything hard, no grass. In fact, some so-called prisons, what we call prisons, Angola, Alcatraz, and all like that, it's got some grass growing on some of them because they have the prisoners take care of the lawns and whatnot. But where black people are, even all over the world, what we call the mother countries and all like that, one of the first things you notice, where there's a lot of people, there's a lot of mud, roads, just where most of the huts are and whatnot. No grass, no well-tailored lawns of any kind, just dirt and sand, okay? Now, most prisons look like that, in particular in the old days, back when they had the gray walls. That was long before they started polishing floors and all like that and making the prisons look better, which is what they have done for black people worldwide. We're still in a prison, all of us, and they have made the prison look better, all right? But we're still in prison because we can't go here and go there. We have to get permission to do everything, get permission in all 9 areas of activity to do anything from the prison masters, who are always white. The prison masters are white. So we act like prisoners. What do prisoners do when they're allowed to go out in the yard and stay and mill around for a while? Because that's all black people do when we get together. We're always talking about black people need to get together. What do we do when we get together? We mill around looking at each other, and then at a certain point, we don't like what we're looking at, meaning us. And then we do what? Find a reason to start an argument. That's what we do better than anything. Find a reason to start an argument. We do that. All you have to do is just get a bunch of us together, and we don't know what to do when we get together except just mill around like prisoners in a prison yard. That's what they do. Just mill around. They ain't got no plans for nothing. So they're just walking from one wall to the other, and that's what we do. Just walk from one wall to the other, one street to the other, one yard to another, one room to another, until we get tired of that. Then we pay attention to what? Each other. And once we pay attention to each other, we find something that we don't like, because we don't like ourselves. We've been trained not to by the white supremacists. So what we do is start what? Not a constructive conversation about doing anything constructive. We start some type of criticism, some type of name calling, usually in the form of some type of joke that turns out not be a joke. And then it turns into some kind of insult of some type. And even at barbecues and all like that, next thing you know, you go from arguments to what? The logical course of an argument is what? Next, a fight. And go from a fight to what? Killing. And then the white supremacists already know that. in their prison yard. They know that prisoners are going to get out there in the prison yard. They stay out there long enough, bumping into each other. A fight is going to start, and then if they got any kind of shank, as they call them, behind walls, any kind of weapon, they're going to use that on each other, and then the prison masters have to come in, as usual, and clean up the mess. And wherever you find black people, you find black people with young people saying what? Like when I turn on the TV every day, or if I turn it on even 5 years from now, or 10 years from now, with the kind of situation we have always had, it's a black lady sitting there talking about, I got to get out of this neighborhood. Well, you're always talking about black people getting together, so y'all together, okay? But what do we do when we get together? Find a way to start killing each other. That's what we do. We're going to find a way, because that's all we know. I mean, we run out of things to do, which is what prisoners do, run out of things to do. You don't have a plan for the future or nothing, so you turn on each other. The white supremacists know that. This is why all over the world, not just here, not just Chicago and Washington, D.C., and Cleveland, Ohio, San Diego, California, wherever, not just there, but everywhere you find black people. And most of them are trying to get away from each other after they spend all that time trying to get with each other. Because we don't know what to do when we get with each other, except fight. Because that's what we've been trained to do by the white supremacists, and we don't even know it. Because that's what prisoners of war do. They have low self-esteem, so they can't stand themselves, and they can't stand anybody who looks like them, looks like us. We can't stand anybody that looks like us, and we can't stand us when we look in the mirror, because we don't like nothing that we see, because we're not in charge of nothing. That's why, including ourselves. And we keep lying to ourselves like we are not in that position, and that is even worse insanity than being insane, when you start lying to yourself about the truth. So we turn on each other in answer to the person's question. And the code says we have to learn that we are that way. So what do you do about it? Don't get with another black person unless you have something constructive to say or do. Now, if you don't remember anything else that's said in this program, because we've been talking about the problem all this time, almost for 2 hours, like we do every time. But I like to talk about the code says it's about problem solving. So how do you solve that problem? Black people are always turning on each other. Every time we get together, everybody starts an argument, and the next thing you know, we do what we do best, turn on each other, go at each other full tilt. And then the white supremacists have to come in and clean up the shell casings all over the place, all right? And then we're pleading with them, please, master, get me out of here. Get me out. I got to get straight out of Brooklyn. I got to get straight out of Compton. I got to get straight out of what, boy? Straight out of what, gal? Straight out of where people that look like me are. Because it's hell here. Every time we get together, it's hell. Master, please send me somewhere else. Well, somewhere else like where, boy? Don't you like being with your own people? Send me where you at. Okay, you want to come where I am? Yeah, because it's safe over there. It makes more sense over there. People act like they got a little bit of sense. I want to go there. So we move there, okay? And then what do? I kind of miss my homies, you know. I kind of miss them. I don't know how to relate to these white folks. So what do? You petition and say, we need to bring some black people in here. Those are the same black people you just got through running from. Like right now, as we talk, all over the world, I'm talking about all over the world now, black people. Black people are asking one question, many of them, the most educated ones. Let me out of here, away from these other black people. Which way did the white people go? I got my babies in my arms, one in each arm, and I'm getting on the first boat that look like it ain't got a lot of leaks in it, and take me across this ocean and find some white folks somewhere so that I can get my life together, start my life all over again, because it is pure hell wherever you find people that look like me. After I spent all my life trying to get with them, now I got to spend the rest of my life trying to get away from them, because they're giving me hell, people that look like me. Now, either I'm telling the truth, or the stuff that I read and hear and see ain't there, because I'm going by what I see and what I have always seen. I have never ever seen it any different from that. Period.
All right. And, folks, I hope you're following what Dr. Neely Fuller is saying. 800-450-7876. And that's why I says you got to listen keenly now because he uses logic. Dave's waiting for us on line 2. Dave's calling from Silver Spring in Maryland. Dave, you're on with Neely Fuller Jr.
Yeah, good afternoon, gentlemen. Mr. Full, I just wanted to make a note of one thing you said about about us going out spending X amount of dollars on cars and going to the nightclub and things of that nature. I think that's pretty much a stereotype now, that most of us are wised up and we spend our money wisely. We go out and work and we try to save. We don't spend the last dollar from week to week. And I think that's pretty much a stereotype that's been passed on. And I don't know how many people fall in that category, but I'm just thinking that a lot of us don't fit in that category anymore. A lot of the things you say are true, and a lot of the things you say are possibly not true. But I'm just basically speaking for myself, especially as a dark-skinned male. Do I need a book that's written about white supremacy? Maybe, then maybe not, because I grew up, I learned at a very early age I was quite different from my cousins, my family members, white people, and you name it. Coming out of the South, I learned very early that I was treated differently. But did that stop me? No, it did not. I continued on. I learned, and I tried to treat people like I wanted to be treated. They didn't treat me always. They did use a lot of the white supremacy ideas, even though they were black.
Right. Dave, we're coming up on a break, so you put a lot on his plate, so I want to thank you for your call, and I'll let him respond on the other side of this break because we've got some other folks who want to speak to him as well. 800-450-7876. Get you Neely Fuller Jr. We'll take your calls after this short break on FM 95.9 and AM 1450. WOL, where information is power.
This show has been previously recorded. No phone calls, please.
That's close to home. Close to home. Listen, WOL, News Talk 1450 AM and 95.9 FM.
And thanks for staying with us, folks. Our guest is Neely Fuller Jr., and the number to call to speak to him, 800-450-7876. Before we get back to him, let me just remind you, next week, one of our guests include Dr. David Horn. He's met with one of the Democratic presidential candidates group, and they talked about reparations, so he's going to share that with us. So if you're in the DMV, tell all your friends that, start at 4 o'clock right here on FM 95.9 and AM 1450 WOL. Neely Fuller Jr., before you respond to Dave saying he doesn't fit and he says it's a stereotype of black folks that you talked about, can you tell folks how they can get a copy of your book and the title of the book, and then I'll let you respond to Dave, what Dave said.
Okay, I'll just give the brief title. The book has 3 titles on the cover because I'm trying to say everything that I possibly can say, but it has, in smaller print, in the 2016 edition, it says Textbook Workbook for Thought, Speech, and/or Action for Victims of White Supremacy. Now, a lot of black people say, I'm not a victim of white supremacy. I don't look at myself as no victim. I ain't no victim of nothing. I do what I please. Don't nobody tell me what to do. I've heard a lot of black people say that. Then I say, well, the book is not for you. You got all your problems solved. Racism doesn't touch you in any way, directly or indirectly. Doesn't touch anybody that you know that you care about. So, therefore, you have figured out a formula for having a code yourself, because racism does exist. And if you have figured out how to make it not touch you in anything that you set out to do, and that if you do run into it, you know what to do about it, that is code. Code is knowing what to do in every situation that you're in. So that's why I have another title of the book on the same cover, A Compensatory Counter-Racist Code. Code means that when you do it, it works. Otherwise, it's got no business being in the book. That's why I have a lot of suggestions in this textbook that I call a textbook workbook for victims of racism. Victims doing what? Thinking, speaking, and acting, meaning some guidelines, not dictating how you should think, but just saying, these are some suggestions. These are some viewpoints that you can think about. You don't have to act on them, But if they make sense to you, you can speak about them and you can act on them if they work. If they don't work, that means that it doesn't apply to you anyway. It might apply to somebody else, but your particular circumstances, it doesn't work. One of the first people that looked at my book said, Fuller, you know what you got there? And I said, what? You talking about my book? Say, yeah, your book. You know what that is? And I said, no, what do you think it is? He said, you got something that ain't nothing there, because there ain't nothing in your book. I looked at it. There ain't nothing in that book that applies to me. There ain't nothing in that book that I can use. I said, that's exactly the way the book is supposed to work. If it's something you can use it. If it works for you, use it. If it doesn't work for you, don't use it. And don't recommend that anybody else does, because you don't believe it'll work. So you don't recommend anything that doesn't work, all right? That doesn't do something for you, okay? So that was his evaluation. And that's exactly the way that everybody, in my opinion, should approach any problem. You look at the problem, you listen to somebody who's making a suggestion about what to do about the problem, because racism is supposed to be a problem, okay? And then, if you want to, you try it and see if it works in your favor, all right? But if you try it and it doesn't work in your favor, if you decide not to try it at all, then that's up to you, too. That's why I call it the United Independent Compensatory Code System, meaning you can be united in doing a lot of things because everybody's united in something. I mean, everybody has to interact with somebody else. You're not on this planet alone, but you're independent in making your own decisions sometimes as best you possibly can about how you're going to react to your circumstances. And the next word is compensatory, meaning every move that you make, you're doing something to make up for something that needs to be done. Like you sweep the floor. That's a compensatory act. Why? Compensatory meaning if you don't sweep the floor just keeps getting dirtier. And then the dirt gets in your way. The trash gets in your way. Some kind of way. It displeases you. So you sweep the floor. So a broom is a compensatory item. Okay? Now this code book is supposed to be compensatory, meaning it takes care of something that needs to be taken care of on a daily basis. And that's how the book is written. You just pick and choose whatever works for you. And that's why I call it a code. Just do something that works. And if you keep doing it and it keeps working, you keep doing it and it keeps working. If it doesn't work, you just don't do it no more. And get your own code. Or modify the one that I've laid out. Say, well, Fuller overlooked something here. This part of it works very well, but he didn't think, he left out something because that thing that he left out applies to me and my circumstances. So I'm going to make a part of a code of my own. So you just manufacture a code. That's how this problem will be solved, because everybody's supposed to be in the codification business, in my opinion.
All right. 800-450-78.
You can get the book by going to producejustice.com.
One more time.
Producejustice.com. Producejustice.com.
And it's a workbook.
And everything that you need will be there at that website. Producejustice.com.
All right. 800-450-7876. Dave in Silver Spring, thank you for your call. Let's go to Gregory. Gregory's in Brandywine, Maryland. He's on line 3. Gregory, you have a question or a comment for Neely Fuller?
Yes, I do. Hotep, to your panel and to you, Mr. Nelson. Yes, I was listening to him, and he made a comment saying that about Egypt and Africa that we couldn't have built it because we're dumb, we would have never lost it. Or I'm assuming that's what he had said, and I have an issue with that. So I want to know, has he been to Africa or Egypt, and if he really believes if we were the first human on Earth, or you saying that these white people were here first and we learned everything from them? Because it seems that if we were dumb and didn't build any of the artifacts and and the history goes back to Africa, then I mean it's hopeless for us. But I don't feel that way. And then the second question is, a lot of what he's saying is true about our people is because we have been extremely brainwashed, even in Africa. And how does he feel about Christianity? Because, slave master, when they imprison us, through this Bible and Christianity on us. And I had another question, but I know you don't have that much time, so I'd like for him to answer that. Oh, I know what it was. It was about Carter G. Woodson's book on, I forgot the name of it.
Miseducation of the Negro.
Yeah, Education of the Negro.
All right, let's give him a chance to respond because we're racing the clock now. We still got a bunch of folks. All right, Neely Fuller Jr., the first question asked about Egypt and the second one about brainwashing and Christianity, and the last one about Carter G. Woodson's Miseducation of the Negro.
Well, if I recall correctly, I'm never making a criticism. I'm making an observation. And everything that I was saying about black people's history, I'm saying whatever it was, when it encountered a juggernaut called the system of white supremacy, it all fell apart. Because the record shows that nothing has been greater than the system of white supremacy as a government of the entire world. Nothing has ever had that kind of influence in a record period of time, very short period of time. It just swept all over the world, where other so-called civilizations, even though there's never been a civilization in recorded history, according to everything I've read and heard, never been
I have something I want to interject. If we were here 10 million years before that, and they weren't here, we would actually have all that history because we gave them the technology and the understanding of where they are today by them invading. It was just, invasion from all the Europeans, even, Oriental. So, that's the fall of Africa. But that was, millions of years or thousands of years later, but we already had a civilization. So I'll let you go ahead and finish.
Well, what I'm really saying, the reason I wrote my book is about problem solving. So the only question I am really dealing with is not so much who did what at what particular time in history. The only question is, do we have a problem now? And if we have a problem now, if we're talking about history, how come all of the brainy people that existed 10 million years ago didn't see that problem coming with their super brains? And I'm saying it must be because some people who had brains that were working better came along and preempted them, because anytime anybody puts me in prison and I don't want to be there, that person, logically speaking, I'm talking about follow logic, no matter how I feel about it, anybody who can put me in a prison and I do not want to be there is smarter than me. There's no way to squirm around that. And I'll listen to people when they say that. Oh, no, that don't make a person smart. As far as I'm concerned, that makes them smarter than me. If they got me in a shape that I don't want to be in and I can't figure out what to do about it or even how they did it, I can't figure even how they did it. I mean, I don't even have the first clue as to how they went about doing it. But all I know how to do is cry and moan about it and beg them for mercy. That person has outsmarted me. And if I can't face that and try to make myself feel good about what my granddaddy used to do, then I am getting crazier and crazier according to what I've written. Because now that is really going insane. When I try to say, well, I'm in bad shape. I don't know how I got this way, but I used to be. used to be this, used to be that. The white supremacists don't have any problem with that. Every day. I've heard white people practically say that. Yeah. You're talking about what you used to be. And then I came along, and in 10 minutes, I wiped out everything that you used to be. And now I got you eating out of my hand. Now, how did I do that, boy? Am I magic with your super brain? How did you wind up doing what I say do, and I don't have to do nothing that you say do, ever?